Hi, I'm Nancy Pinter, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Go Math and big ideas. Primarily Go Math because that's the real big change that we're seeing across the North American division. Why? Why am I sharing this with you? I'm a teacher from Florida. I just moved from Florida. And in Florida, we had begun the Go Math initiative several years ago, and they were looking for teachers who were passionate about math, who would be willing to go through the training with the Go Math publishers. So I was asked to be part of that. And for me, it was this perfect storm because at the same time, I was also up for my recertification. And so I really was very interested in this idea of how we could better prepare our students for the math that was coming. I used to teach high school math, and I kept noticing that the same things that I saw my high school students doing, I knew that I had taught way back when I taught elementary school. So why, if I taught this in 5th grade, am I still encountering sophomores in high school who don't know how to do this? So I started my journey backwards. I went back to middle school, and then I went even lower. So as all this has been mulling over, I started taking classes on how to develop the type of thinking that we need in our students to be successful on the college level, really. That's ultimately what we want, is that everybody has available to them careers that involve math or whatever interests them. So anyway, I started being trained by the publisher. I took these classes, and lo and behold, they meshed perfectly. It was so amazing to see the Go Math textbooks using exactly the strategies that I had been being taught in my master's level classes. Partial products, partial quotients. I'd never heard of those things before. And initially I was like, this is a waste of time. Why would anyone want to teach that? And then I started seeing and being shown how it develops numerical sense in a way that place value, multiplication, or the traditional algorithm for long division. You don't really have to understand what you're doing. But the other new methods, they do. And that's really what we want. We want to develop math thinkers. It's one of the math practices that we're looking for. So Go Math and big ideas are just a wonderful way to teach those particular strategies to help them be successful. Talk to some of the teachers that are teaching high school, and they'll tell you, what do we really want? It's great if kids know how to multiply, divide, add, and subtract, but we really need mathematical thinkers who understand numbers. One of the foundational things about Go Math is that it's trying to teach students as early as possible the type of thinking that's required in algebra or any of the higher maths. And that's why we take time to unlock the problem and go through that long process with them, so that later on, the types of problems that they've seen in 3rd and 4th grade and even 5th grade, when they encounter them in algebra, it won't be the first time that their brains have had that experience of thinking of those kinds of things. The way it works is this. If I were going to introduce Go Math to somebody who has never experienced it before, the most important thing that you do is unlock the problem. Those are going to be the types of real-life situations where they might have to practice that math skill. That's an opportunity for you to just break down all the processes. If you're doing a multi-step problem, it's going to be the opportunity for you to help them see how anything that you encounter mathematically in the real world is not usually 3 times 5 or 15 minus 3. It's going to be a series of multiple steps that will require you to pull it all together. So that's the most important part of Go Math, is unlock the problem. And that's something that you have to do every day. Now, you don't have to do every single problem. It's not designed that every single one of those beginning problems is done. The basic format is supposed to be unlock the problem. Take as much time as you need for the kids to get the concept. If you need more than one, go to the second one. If one does it and you know that they understand, you don't have to do any of the others. You can go right to the share and show. That's step 2 in Go Math. That's an opportunity for them in front of you to show you that they understand how to do the skill. It's not independent work. It's teacher-guided work. When they've done the share and show to your satisfaction and you've retaught as you've seen that you've needed to do, then they go on to their independent practice. That's typically the on your own. I like to do that in the classroom. That's something that they do here. I can still monitor a little bit, but really you don't send them to the on your own portion until they have mastered the share and show. Then standards practice is the homework piece. That's a very critical piece because on the back of the standards practice, there's a review, and that is the only place that Go Math and actually Big Ideas reviews. In the Big Ideas, you know, you have that math journal. It's kind of following the same format. You always introduce a problem. They do guided practice with you. Then they do the independent practice. But in that math journal, there's always that section that's called the Fair Game Review. In Go Math, it's, the spiral review, that's the words. That's the only opportunity for review. So if you're missing that piece, they're never getting to go back to skills that they've had earlier in the year. So that would be the skeleton that I would say that makes Go Math and Big Ideas work. In my classroom, the way that I do it is, if any of you have ever used Daily 5 for reading, it's a very wonderful way to structure a reading and writing classroom. The teacher does guided practice with reading, and then the students are doing 5 different components independently. That's how I run my math classroom. I have typically 4 rotations. The 4 rotations are teacher time, independent practice. They have time on Think Central where they're practicing the skills. Everything there is designed to just mesh perfectly with the Go Math curriculum. And then I'll have an opportunity for them to do math reading and writing. They each have a math journal book. I might ask them to explain the process for that day. I might ask them to read the concept reader that goes along with the chapter and then write a brief summary. They have the opportunity to write math problems where they have to create their own. So those would be the 4 basic things that I do. And then that way, every part of the day is meaningful, tied to the content of the day, and yet it leaves me the opportunity to spend the time that I need doing the individual teacher time with the individual classes. These are some of the things that we use every day in our math class. For children of all ages, from kindergarten all the way up, they have to see the math in order to really understand it. All too often we're so quick to go to, well, this is how we multiply. You're going to write this number and then this number and this times this and put this down and this times this. That has no meaning. That has no meaning for them. So when we do multiplication and I might say, okay, if the problem is 43 times 3, we'll lay out 40, the 43, and we'll set that out 3 times. I'll do one and I'll do another so that they can picture it. It's a critical piece for them to understand, and I know it takes time. It's a big time consumer. It's not a big time waster because these pictures of what they see are going to stick with them. Last week we did a problem. Some of you who teach 4th grade, you might know the problem. It was about figuring out how many seats are in the splash zone, and it talks about a theme park, a sea park. And there are a certain number of seats, and it gives them a multiplication problem. I think it's 18 times 9. And then it says in the center 6 rows of 8 seats are in the splash zone. How many seats are not? Now, I know it's very easy to just go to doing the math, but we took the time to set out the array, to make the array of 18 times 9, and then separate the different sections. That's all we did that class period, but then that was the only one I needed to do. After doing that one, because they touched it, because they set it out, they separated the zones, they moved the pieces around. We talked about what each one of these tiles represented, that each one of the tiles was a seat at the sea park. We actually even got out a stuffed animal to represent the dolphin that was going to splash them so that they could get the idea of where the front and where the center was. It's a huge investment for them, because if you look at anything that any of us learn, we only really remember the things that we see. So as much as possible, these things are available to us. That's why they have the math kits. But it's a critical piece. It's not a privilege, it's a right. They have to see it if they're going to really deeply understand it.